it's about high-end jewelry, so we show you some luxurious jewelry ads. That's where we started it. That's really sort of where we've taken similar ideas but applied it to commerce.
So really quick, I love backstories. I think you get a lot of the tech press and a lot of times the PR side of things, but on a personal level, where did you, from your experience at Google, come up with the idea for Wish? What was that point and what was that backstory behind that? How did you guys think of it?
Yeah, no. So we spent all this time working on these matching problems that really ended up generating revenue for the company by showing the right ads to lead to e-commerce websites and other places that then users use to actually buy physical things or services, etc. So we said, well, no one's really optimizing those actual destinations where users actually buy things. So I teamed up with my buddy from college who was doing similar problems. He dropped out of Caltech to work at Overture, which was acquired by Yahoo, and he worked on matching problems there. So that's sort of where we're coming from, and we really thought that in the space of mobile, which is our focus, we have a mobile shopping app. Think of it as a shopping mall. Matching the right users with the right items is really important. So we now have about 24 million users and probably about 7 million unique products, right? And in the world of mobile, there's less of this interactive search behavior. Users don't tend to sort of type in queries and then research things. Shopping is a very different experience. We think of the experience of Wish as going to a shopping mall, but it's shopping only in your pocket. So think about how people get excited on like Black Friday, like 11:59 p.m. the day before, just storming into Walmart or a shopping mall or a Macy's. We want to sort of provide that kind of experience to users, but of course we have to show them interesting things because the attention span on mobile is much shorter, and people aren't really willing to search for things or input stuff into the keypads. They just want kind of the right entertainment value immediately, and then possibly buy something or move on. And that's why we thought matching is really important, and so far I think we've been proven right.
Great, and then just downloaded the app today, and I had my colleague Jody using it. Her exact words: "This is easy and eclectic." So I'm curious as to how the app works. When you say merchants, where are the merchants coming from? How are they signing up? And then how are you getting your users? And how are they?
Yeah, great question. So we launched the app actually in December 2011, but we launched it as a website, and then we developed and launched the mobile apps, iOS and Android, sometime in 2012. I think iOS was April 2012, and then Android followed a month or so later. And throughout, since then, we've been just making it easier and easier and easier and easier. So I think we have three hypotheses. One, which I kind of covered, and some are more contrarian than others. One is the mobile shopping is vastly different. Like the usage patterns are different. Users have very short attention spans. They just want to be delivered relevant content, engage with it, and then kind of move on. And that the right entertainment value from the app is really important. So that leads us to sort of the relevance question, showing the right stores with the right content to each user at the right time so they actually buy something or aren't annoyed and are actually sort of interested in the stuff. And then sort of, the way that we think about it, going into my third point, is we think of just starting a startup as kind of a search optimization problem, especially early on. You're kind of trying to look for the solution that works, and especially with the Wish marketplace, you're building up the supply side, which is the merchants, and the demand side, which is the consumers. And possibly the most contrarian part of our hypothesis is that you'll see a lot of these shopping apps that are targeting the high-end consumer. So they're really going after like the top 5% of consumers in the US or worldwide. Our consumers are mainly in Europe and North America, about 50-50 split. And we specifically go after the bottom 70%. So we go after the Walmart shopper or the like somebody in Jackson, Wyoming or something. Like if you look at the map of GMV, which or gross merchandise volume or sales across the map of the United States, it's like very evenly distributed. And we think because no one's serving those users, they're actually the most loyal, and they're looking for sort of maybe lower price points. So it turns out that actually Chinese merchants, export-oriented, or actually focused on selling on Taobao or Tmall, actually really work well. So even though they're very reluctant to sell to Western consumers because they just think, oh, maybe we don't understand them or we don't want to deal with customer service, if you give them the tools and you teach them how to do it, it actually works really well. So in our marketplace, we're matching the millions of merchants or SMBs that are actually either serving domestic Chinese consumers or on platforms like Alibaba, or export-oriented merchants in China, and providing them with tons of goods that that they sell in China to consumers in the West. And it's been working quite well. I think there's someone from Alibaba here, but
Yeah.
I think Alibaba did 170 billion in the last 12 months. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's bigger than Amazon and eBay combined. And it's really kind of discovery-based shopping. It's almost kind of like a lifestyle. I think that's how Jack Ma describes it. It's much more like, I open something, I buy it because I like it. So we're never gonna, as the article says at the beginning, I don't think we're directly going after Amazon in the sense that no one's gonna download our app and be like, oh, I need a new HDMI cable for my big screen or something. We're going after sort of discovery-based shopping. Like, here's some stuff that we think you like, just based on sort of what you've done before, who you are, and we'll try to get better and better and better at that all the time so that you're excited when you get a notification from Wish to actually see and potentially buy some stuff that you like.
So you make it sound so simple. Merchant signs up in China and starts selling to North American, European customers. How does that actually work? Are there any challenges, or is the app solving some problem? Why haven't they been doing that already on other apps or in other platforms? What problem are you guys specifically solving for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess there are a bunch of problems. One, there's no sort of easy way for consumers to access those items, right? Another problem is actually the reluctance from the merchants. So you actually have to convince them that they're able to do this. Another challenge is actually educating the users. And the way that we've got it set up is, for most new merchants, the consumers have to wait a long time to get their stuff. So there's a trade-off between, hey, this is really cheap, but I'm gonna have to wait, 3 weeks to get it. And we try to make that expectations really clear and upfront, and that works. And then we actually have another solution where, because we're entertainment focused, we're not like waiting for a Google search to come in to drive traffic to Amazon to buy that HDMI cable. We're much more like, this is what we show, teenagers in Arkansas or something, right? Like female teenagers or women teenagers, girls, I guess, in Arkansas. And we're able to sort of predict what people are going to buy where and which sizes. So we're able to sort of move those items to warehouses near where the consumers actually are that are going to buy them, and get it to them in 5 days. So that was a big challenge that we solved that nobody else really paid attention to.
So you guys do from the fulfillment? Is there a...
I mean, it's a third-party solution, but what we do is we say, hey, for the merchants where we have a really strong relationship and that trust us, we say, look, we know you're going to sell, 700 of those watches next week in Italy, right? So why don't you actually move it to a European warehouse, and so that the consumers get it faster. We'll promise you greater distribution, greater promotions, and we'll actually highlight to the consumers, and the consumers will know that they will be able to get it within 5 days as opposed to waiting 3 weeks. And that makes everyone happy.
So challenges so far, is there anything in the past year and a half that surprised you, where you guys thought you were going to start off at and where you're at now, where you're heading?
Yeah, sure. The more you work at this, the bigger the challenges, but it's kind of fun. So we like doing that. So one of the biggest challenges is just managing expectations, right? So I'd say on the supply side, meaning the merchants, one thing that we realize is that when a new merchant signs up, because they're fairly transient, we actually have to get them a lot of sales really quickly. Like if we don't get them sales within the first week, like meaningful sales, they're just going to move on. And they're going to be like, screw this, I'm back to Tmall or whatever, right? So it's actually important to get them to engage, right? And you almost have to treat them like consumers. You have to sort of scale them up and give them feedback. It's almost like gamification. And of course, since they're Chinese merchants, you have to provide them with services like most Chinese merchants don't have the capacity to do customer service in like French, or like Dutch. So we have to provide services in order to do that.
So you have a team actually
Yeah.
that can translate or facilitate customer service issues or things like that in different languages?
Yeah, I mean, so we like plug in Google Translate, but then and there's actually just one button, you click it, and it actually works sometimes. So it's like we detect the language. It costs us almost nothing, and we allow we actually it's kind of funny sometimes the tickets get really long, and we look at the conversation between the merchants and the customers, and it's like the customer speaking Dutch and the Chinese merchant speaking broken English and translating into Dutch, and somehow they're communicating. But yes, we also have our own teams that speak all these languages, and they basically jump in. Things get escalated, and if a support ticket hasn't been answered for quite a while, we basically jump in and we have the ability to actually handle those issues.
And so, just an idea, where are you based? Do you have teams in different countries, or are you guys just based here? What's the size of the team, and where are you guys headed in terms of growth?
Sure, yeah. So we have about 60 people in the US. All of that's in San Francisco. We have a team in Shanghai that works on the merchant side. And we have some people in Europe that are basically on a contract basis. We don't have any sort of exact locations there. Yeah, that's essentially where we are.
And who would be your competitors? Like, I just downloaded this today and I'm just wondering, what I like about it is the fact that it's so hard to shop on mobile sometimes, but we're so used to, at least in the States, we're so used to a format where you're in front of your laptop and, we've got all merchandise. And here I'm working off a tiny screen, so, that seems to be an advantage. But,
it's an advantage if you can do it right, and it turns out the simpler we make the experience, like the better it is. Like, coming from Google, Yahoo, Facebook, all the guys on the team, at least on the product and engineering side, they're very metrics focused. I'm sure like in terms of games as well, right? So we measure these things fairly religiously. We all have a technical background. So sort of, we know that when we make things easier, we just the people use the app more. In terms of our competitor, I'd say, the apps that are ahead of us in the App Store now are places like eBay, potentially Walmart, although it's a little bit different, Amazon, etc. But I think sort of the interesting thing about mobile, it's a fairly new space. We decided to just not necessarily kill the website, but we stopped working on it February of last year. Even though we own Wish.com, which we paid a pretty good price for, we don't really use it. It's actually the merchants that use it. The merchants use it to actually look through all their products, add photos, etc. But they don't. The consumers actually engage through the mobile platform, and that's a challenge in itself, right? A lot of our consumers, if you actually talk to them, have never shopped online. So at some point I was taking 3 support calls a day, just for the fun of it, just the English ones, and they just had no idea about like tracking numbers, like the most basic things. So in that sense, we're really competing against your local shopping mall. I mean, maybe something like QVC or Home Shopping Network, where you're deriving some kind of entertainment value through walking through the mall or watching a QVC Home Shopping Network show.
So I have a question related to your Alibaba and Jerry Yang connection. How did you get Jerry Yang interested in what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we had a bunch of connections, and then once he decided to pursue investing, we were supposed to meet up a bunch of times. So Hank Vigil from Microsoft, Joe Lonsdale from Formation 8, Mike Marquez at Code Advisors. I don't know if these names are familiar, but they all knew Jerry, they worked for Jerry, and then once he left and he started doing investing full time, it was pretty obvious that we met, he liked what we were doing, and then we've had a great relationship ever since then. And he was involved in Alibaba, and he's also on the board of Rakuten, so he's actually got a lot of deep e-commerce insights, even though he's coming more from the content world.
Any questions?
Here.
Yeah, all the way in the back. Yeah, you're gonna have to shout.
Okay, I have a question. So your business is on the international merchandise, and I know like Alibaba, I know like Taobao or Tmall or like Jingdong have the overseas shopping sites, and like the shipping cost is usually like on top of the products. So do you have any strategies like to go around the shipping fees?
Yeah, so the question is, sometimes the products are really cheap, but the shipping is really expensive, right? So if you go to like maybe AliExpress, I don't need to pick on Alibaba, I think it's great. You see like something for $2 and then it costs, the shipping costs $7, and that's just the nature of international shipping. So there are some ways to get around it. One is just move the items in bulk to warehouses internationally. That cuts down on it. I think there's a certain threshold where you can't go below it. And consumers don't like that, so that's one thing that we discovered. It's better to sell, it's kind of funny, it's funny math. It's better to price something at $15 and $5 shipping, right? Than like price it at $5 and $10 shipping. Like even though the overall cost is lower. So there's some kind of funny stuff going on there. But overall, I think in terms of our repeat buyers, they're actually okay with paying, $5, $7, even $9 shipping. That's typically what they pay anyway, and as long as sort of they get what they ask for and the quality controls are there, it's a quality product it is, and we're providing sort of a relevant, entertaining experience, they keep on coming back.
That was great. Thank you so much, Christine, Lou, and Peter. Let's give a round of applause. Don't forget to tweet at Silicon Dragon, hashtag Silicon Dragon. And if you did not